You know, the biggest lie you tell yourself every 2 weeks or on the first of the month, it is that feeling when a push notification hits your phone saying your paycheck has been deposited. In that exact moment, an epic cinematic soundtrack turns on in your head. You feel like Rockefeller closing an oil deal. You walk down the street with your shoulders back thinking, all right, I am in control of my life now. I worked hard. I earned this. This is my money. Yeah, right. Sure, your money. Let's be honest with ourselves for once. That money was dead before your boss even clicked send. It did not even have time to get warm in your account. It flew through your balance like a transit passenger through a connecting airport. You saw it, but you did not get a chance to actually talk to it. But the real trick is not paying your rent or settling utilities. No, that would be too simple. The real magic happens at 11 o'clock at night on payday. There are endless stories online describing a phenomenon called revenge bedtime procrastination or revenge spending. The story is always identical. Picture a guy, let's call him Mark. Mark works at an office or remotely. For 9 hours straight, he stares at a monitor where some middle manager with a face like he just ate a lemon explains why an Excel sheet should be dark green instead of regular green. Mark swallows his pride, drains his brain down to a dry sponge, and crawls away from his desk at 6. He feels like everything has been sucked out of him. Enthusiasm, self-respect, and a bit of bone marrow. Now it is late at night. Mark is lying on the couch. He should go to sleep because tomorrow the same nightmare starts all over again. But if he goes to sleep right now, tomorrow arrives instantly. Going to sleep means voluntarily surrendering to the next workday. So what does Mark do? He opens his phone, he jumps onto an online shop or a food delivery app, and suddenly Mark realizes that right now, at 11:45 at night, he urgently needs an automatic beer opener shaped like the Millennium Falcon for $45, or a professional panini press. Mark has never made a panini in his life. He does not even know the actual difference between a panini and a regular sandwich slapped together at 3 in the morning out of whatever was in the fridge. But he hits buy. Then he orders overpriced sushi delivery with salmon that, judging by the price, walked into the restaurant itself and gave an interview. Why did he do that? Was he starving? No, he has normal food in the fridge. Does he need the press? He will shove it into a closet next to the humidifier he bought last November and never turned on. Mark did not buy an item. Mark just paid himself emotional compensation. It is a bribe to his own brain. It is the only way available to him to say to himself at midnight, "See, Mark, you are not just a free bio-robot turning coffee into spreadsheets. You are a human being. You can afford useless junk. You control your life. But the catch is, you control nothing. Those are not living expenses. Those are maintenance costs for your mental health so it does not collapse completely. We spend about 30 to 40% of our net income just to numb the pain of where and how we earn that money. Ugh. It is like buying painkillers for beating your head against a brick wall every single day. You do not buy $200 sneakers because you have nothing to wear. You buy them because those $200 are the only dopamine band-aid you can slap onto your exhausted nervous system after a week of pointless Zoom calls. And here is the funniest and saddest paradox of the whole system. It becomes a closed loop that most people never escape until retirement. You work a job you can barely tolerate to earn money. Then you spend that money on evening self-apologies, expensive deliveries, Amazon trinkets, Ubers because you are too exhausted to walk, and drinks on Friday night to shut down the analytical center in your brain for 6 hours. As a result, by the end of the month, your account balance is around 0, which means, ta-da! On Monday morning, you have to go right back to that same job because you need money for your next dose of painkillers. You did not just have a dead paycheck. You murdered it yourself and ate it for dinner under the guise of a premium burger set you did not even taste because you were scrolling through videos. The worst thing finance gurus do is come out with a smart face, saying, oh, you just need to give up your morning latte, stop buying $4 coffee, and in 40 years you can buy a garage in the suburbs. Seriously? Give up coffee? So take away the one tiny thing keeping a person from throwing their laptop out an office window? That is advice on the level of, if your broken leg hurts, just stop paying attention to it. The problem is not $4 coffee. The problem is that your paycheck is pre-budgeted for emotional resuscitation. You are not failing to build wealth because you are stupid or cannot use Excel. It is because your lifestyle is built in a way where without these compensation spends you would go crazy in 2 months. And until you look at your pay stub and honestly ask yourself, wait, how much of this money went to my actual future? And how much went to keeping me from screaming into a pillow from burnout? Your paycheck will die a second before you even refresh your balance. So, we figured out the emotional bribe. Now let's talk about the second reason your check dies before you even pay for parking. This is a topic people on money forums write about with tears in their eyes, guys making $100,000 a year who somehow still live paycheck to paycheck like a college freshman. It is called the fixed commitments trap. Know how modern marketing works. They do not try to sell you a product anymore. Selling a product for $1,000 is hard. You sit there, think, compare, fight your inner cheapskate. Corporations realized this and said, okay, man, do not give us $1,000, just give us $29.99 a month. That is the price of 2 pizzas. What are you, broke? And you go, oh, $30? Total pocket change? Sign me up. Now let's do the math. You wake up on the first of the month, you have not opened your eyes, brushed your teeth, or had a pleasant thought. But your phone vibrates. Rent or mortgage payment? Bam! Car lease or loan? Bam! Car insurance, because without it, you are a criminal. Bam! Streaming subscription you watch once every 2 months. Debited. Cloud storage for photos where 90% are meme screenshots from 2021. Debited. Music service, gym you only visit in your mind. Installment plan for last year's laptop, work software. You have not even gotten out of bed or taken a sip of water, and your paycheck has already lost 80 to 90% of its weight. It's scattered in a second through automatic debits. Here is where a fascinating psychological effect kicks in. There was a story about 2 guys working at the same tech company. Let's call them Alex and Dan. Alex made $100,000 a year. Great number, right? Something to brag about at high school reunions. But Alex rented a fancy apartment downtown, leased the aggressive new car, subscribed to every possible service, bought an expensive bike on installments, and ate exclusively at places without drink prices on the menu. His cost of existing, the minimum amount he must hand over every month just so he does not get evicted or have his stuff repossessed, was $7,500. Next to him sat Dan. Dan made $50,000, half as much, but Dan lived in a modest, totally fine apartment, drove an old reliable Honda he paid off 3 years ago, and had only 1 movie streaming subscription. His cost of existing was $1,800. Then layoffs hit the company, or management changed, and the boss turned into a complete tyrant. Alex is in a full-blown panic, cold sweat on his forehead. He cannot quit. He cannot even speak up in a meeting, because if he loses his job for a single month, his life completely collapses. Banks take the car, the landlord throws his stuff on the street, and credit cards turn into a fiery inferno. Alex is an absolute slave to his high salary. He makes a ton of money, but has 0 freedom. What about Dan? Dan looks at the chaos, calmly closes his laptop, and says, you know what, guys? I am out. I am going to sit on my balcony for a month, drink tea, and then find something normal, because his fixed expenses are laughable. He has a 6-month emergency cushion because he is not dangling on a hook for credit companies. See the joke? Modern society taught us to measure success by income level. But true financial armor and your personal freedom are measured by your level of fixed commitments. The lower your mandatory monthly payments, the harder it is for the system to bring you to your knees. When you have high fixed expenses, you live with constant hidden anxiety. You might buy expensive things, but you sleep like someone hanging by a rope over a cliff, and that rope is your next paycheck. If your boss decides you are no longer needed, or if the market dips, you fall instantly. And once again, financial gurus say, save on matches, stop buying chewing gum. To hell with the gum. If you want real maneuvering room in life, you do not look at tiny daily joys. You look at those big, invisible anchors you forced yourself to drag around. The question is not how much you make. The question is, how many days could you just stare at the ceiling and do nothing if your income source suddenly died today? If the answer is 5 days, and only if I do not eat, congratulations, your paycheck was shot before it left the bank. And you pulled the trigger yourself when you signed your 5th consecutive great installment plan. Moving right along, now let's break down the slickest trick of the century. A mathematical illusion that makes Vegas magicians look like amateurs. When you get a job, they write a pretty number in your offer letter. For example, congratulations, man, your rate is $25 an hour, or your salary is $2,000 a month. You look at that number, do quick mental math, and think, all right, 8 hours a day times 25, $200 a day. I am practically the Wolf of Wall Street, minus the yacht and wearing a wrinkled t-shirt. But let's look at real adult life math that makes accountants cry. Imagine a regular guy. Let's call him Steve. Steve officially works 8 hours a day for $25 an hour. So he should get $200 a day. Sounds fair, right? But now let's calculate the actual time and actual expenses Steve spends just to hold those $200 in his hands. First, the commute. Steve does not teleport to the office. He spends 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening stuck in traffic, riding the subway or squeezed into a crowded bus. That is plus 2 hours of his life. So the workday is no longer 8 hours, it is 10 hours. Second, getting ready and unwinding. Steve needs half an hour in the morning to get dressed, and at least an hour in the evening to just sit in a chair, stare at a wall, and wait for his jaw to unclench after talking to his manager. Congratulations, that is 11 and a half hours given to this job. Third, direct job costs. Steve spends money on gas or transit passes, on dress code clothes because sweatpants are not allowed in the office, and on a $15 office lunch because he did not have time to prep food at 6 in the morning. Add 3 or 4 coffees throughout the day just to stay awake during presentations about team synergy. Now Steve sits down at night with a calculator and subtracts gas, lunch, coffee, and car wear from his $200. He has, say, $130 in net income left. Now we divide that $130 not by 8 hours, but by the 11 and a half hours that this job actually took from him. Boom! A mathematical miracle. Turns out Steve's real hourly rate is not $25. It is around $11 an hour. $11! You can barely buy a decent fast food burger for that now. The hilarious part of this system is the purchasing power of those $11. It creates an evil, absurd loop. You buy a $5 coffee to wake up for work. You take a $15 ride because you are late from sleeping poorly over work stress. At work, you buy a $20 lunch because you have no energy or time to cook at home because of work. And in the evening, you buy drinks or order $30 delivery to numb the pain of being at work all day. You are buying goods and services exclusively to maintain your ability to keep going to that work. It is not you earning a living. Your job is earning off of you while you purchase the maintenance kit to serve it. You work for your job. Here is the takeaway. Most people think that to have more money, they urgently need a side hustle or to work 12 hours instead of 8, meaning selling even more of their time for those devaluation $11. But if you start calculating not the abstract offer number, but the net leftover per actual hour of spent life, you will discover strange things. Maybe a job with a slightly lower salary, but 10 minutes from home without requiring expensive suits or salmon salads leaves you with significantly more real cash and intact mental health than a prestigious position downtown. Until you learn to subtract the cost of extraction from your paycheck, you will rejoice at big numbers on paper while wondering why your pockets are absurdly empty at the end of the month. Now let's look at how we add fuel to this fire ourselves. Picture a typical situation. Payday hits, rent and utilities clear, mandatory debts are covered, and you have, say, $500 or $700 free dollars left on your card. They are just sitting there on your primary card, a nice, bright number on your app screen. Right here, a primitive mechanism turns on in your brain that has not changed since our ancestors chased mammoths. To our limbic system, free money on a card is literally the same as a bush of ripe berries in prehistoric times. The brain does not understand concepts like saving for a rainy day or an investment portfolio. The brain sees a resource and says, "Oh, resource! If we do not eat it now, the neighboring tribe will, or it will rot. Eat it immediately." There is a rule in budgeting communities that goes, give every dollar a job before it arrives. Because if a dollar does not have a specific, strict job, it will voluntarily go work for corporations. How does this play out for a regular guy? You see those $500 and think, well, I am a smart person. I will not spend it. Let it sit just in case. But because it sits on the exact same card you use to buy grocery store coffee, your entire view of the world shifts. You walk through a store. You see a jacket for $120. Your inner analyst looks at the balance and says, "Hey, we have $500. 120 is less than a quarter. A jacket is useful. Buy it." 3 days later, you see new headphones for $80. Well, we still have $380. $80 is nothing. A week later, you open your banking app and see $14.50 in horror. You genuinely do not understand. Where did it go? Was I robbed? Where is the money? You were not robbed. You fell victim to the blurred balance effect. When money sits in one big pile, your brain evaluates small purchases every time, not against how much you can actually afford to waste, but against the total amount in the account. It is like putting 50 gallons of gas in your car and thinking you can drive in circles around your block forever because, hey, we have plenty of gas. The irony is we all think we are rational adults with degrees. But as soon as free money lands on the card, we turn into an 8-year-old given $50 by their grandma and let loose in a toy store. The kid will not leave until the balance is zero. They will find a use for every penny, even if it is a plastic whistle that breaks in the car on the way home. That is why your paycheck dies so stupidly. It does not die from big planned purchases. It bleeds out from 1,000 paper cuts. $15 here, $20 there, $30 over there, and by the end of the week, you are back to eating instant noodles. Real benefit comes when you stop relying on willpower. Willpower after a long workday is zero. If money does not automatically split into separate savings accounts, deposits, or envelopes the exact minute it arrives, consider it already lost. If it stays on your main card just because, your inner idiot is already scheming what useless junk to waste it on this weekend. Give your money no choice. It either works for your future or it buys you another piece of plastic trash that will gather dust in your closet next month. And now we arrived at the main event, to the final act of this tragicomedy called, Where the Hell Does My Paycheck Go? Let's face reality. Society spent years hooking us on one very sneaky concept. We were taught to use money to buy status symbols instead of buying actual freedom. I have an acquaintance. Let's call him Derek. Derek got a promotion and a small bonus at work. What did Derek do first thing? Did he pay off debt? Did he build an emergency cushion? No. Derek went out and financed a brand new aggressive crossover with a panoramic sunroof and leather seats. Now Derek forks over a massive chunk of his paycheck every month for that piece of metal, plus insurance, plus premium gas, plus car washes every 3 days, because driving a dirty car is not respectable. Question: why does Derek need this car? To commute to work? He made it to work just fine in his old sedan. The answer is simple. Derek bought that machine, so every morning at 8 o'clock, pulling out of his driveway, he could show his neighbors, guys in traffic, and the dude at the red light, "Look at me, I am successful, I have money." But if you break this situation down to atoms, that car is shouting something completely different to the world. It is screaming at the top of its lungs, "Look everyone, I owe the bank a ton of money, and now I am forced to work another 3,000 hours at my miserable job just to park this block of metal outside the office." It is absolute surrealism. We buy things to impress people we do not even know, using money we do not actually have, working jobs we absolutely despise. Seth MacFarlane in his prime could not write a more absurd premise. Now compare Derek to another guy. Let's call him Jim. Jim makes the exact same salary, but Jim drives an ordinary, fully paid-off hatchback. He does not have the latest smartphone model, and he does not buy designer clothes with logos slapped across the chest. Instead, Jim takes that chunk of money Derek pays for his car loan every month and simply buys his own days and months of life. He puts them into an untouchable fund. When chaos breaks out at work, when the boss starts demanding he live in the office on weekends, or when the company culture turns into a toxic swamp, Derek silently swallows it and smiles because he has to pay for his panoramic sunroof. But Jim calmly stands up, packs his backpack, and says, "Guys, I am out. I quit." Because the coolest, most valuable thing money can buy in this insane world is the ability to say a firm, calm, effortless no. No to a toxic boss. No to a pointless project that sucks the soul out of you. No to overtime hours when you should be sleeping or spending time with family. Money is not sneakers, new gadgets, or premium subscriptions. Money, in its purest, best form, is a leverage of freedom. It is your security blanket and your ability to pause a game you do not like at any moment. But we were trained to waste that leverage on trinkets before we even feel its weight in our hands. That is why your paycheck is dead. You murder it every time you trade your future peace and freedom for another dose of cheat status or evening dopamine. So next time a push notification hits your phone saying your salary was deposited, do not rush to feel like the king of the world. Just wait 10 seconds, look at that number, and ask yourself, is this money about to buy back a piece of my own freedom? Or am I just going to transfer it right back to corporations, bank loans, and late-night self-apologies for another wasted month? The choice is yours. But remember, until you start buying your time instead of other people's stuff, your paycheck will die a second before you even get a chance to touch it. Think about it. And have a good night.